Hello participants, welcome back to the MOOC course on Digital Humanities, Theory and Practice. This is the fourth lecture where we are going to discuss Introduction to Digital Humanities. You might be surprised that I am going to discuss this introductory topic in my fourth lecture. This might look unconventional, but the idea was to familiarize you through the first three lectures that our life is already digital. Whatever we do in our everyday life, it is digital. You need to ponder that our reading style, writing patterns, our understanding, our thinking, our approach to life, our shopping, our payments, our bargaining patterns, our finding locations, our language and communications, our activism, our lifestyle, everything is changed. In other words, we have changed in our everyday life, academics, and our overall culture. It's all digital. This is an indication that digital humanities is inevitable. It is changing us, we like it or we lump it. This shift makes digital humanities not optional, but essential. Whether we embrace it or not, it is reshaping us. To stay relevant, we must adapt to those changes. This is especially important for teachers, students, alumni, employers, and innovators alike. We have moved from basic literacy to computer literacy and now to digital literacy. So let us begin this lecture. This slide lays out our roadmap so that everyone knows where we are headed to. Conceptual framing, historical roots, evolving methods, practical debate, the course plan, and a short knowledge check to consolidate learning. The big tent, there is a concept of big tent. We will start by defining the broad landscape. This helps avoid getting stuck in narrow definition and sets the stage for inclusive thinking. Historical lineage is another aspect where we will trace key intellectual ancestors and movements that shape the current approaches. Methodological shift is also there. Here we will highlight how methods have changed, for example, from qualitative to quantitative to mixed and computational methods. The hack versus yak debate is another important aspect. This is the practical versus theoretical tension. Do we prioritize building tools and quick prototypes that can be called hack, or deep conceptual analysis and critique that we can call yak? I will outline both positions, why the tension exists, and how a productive balance can look in practice. To wrap the session, a short activity will help you apply what you have learned. The humanities are facing a scale problem. Cultural data now grows faster than any individual or a small team can read, which forces us to rethink how interpretation, context, and close reading coexist with algorithmic methods. The amount of digitized cultural material has outpaced traditional reading practices, creating a tension between nuanced humanistic interpretation and the need to mediate meaning with computational tools across massive archives. We can go further. This slide frames digital humanities as a collaborative, practice-driven field that values shared tools, interdisciplinary work, digital native scholarship, and team-based research cultures. It is less about rules and more about building commons, breaking down silos, and inventing new forms of scholarship. We can explain a methodological commons over here, that the commons are practical and shared. Tools like GIS, TEI, Text Encoding Initiative, network analysis, and text mining libraries are not proprietary to one discipline. Historians can especially map events. Literary scholars can mark up manuscripts with TEI, and art historians can use digital image analysis, all using overlapping toolkits. So you can think of that. Interdisciplinary stress here is also very active, not decorative. It means designing a project that intentionally combine domain expertise with technical tools. For example, pairing a scholar of 19th century literature with data scientists to ask new questions about stylistic change, that collaboration reshape curricula and grant teams, and even departmental interactions, making room for joint authorship and co-mentorship models. The digital turn goes beyond scanning books. It is about producing born digital artifacts, data sets, interactive exhibitions, and computational arguments that cannot exist on a printed page. So these are some, for example, you can also think of the big tent. The big tent is both pragmatic and political. It invites diverse methods and people while challenging traditional reward structures, authorship norms, tenure criteria to recognize collaborative digital work. This slide maps three waves that show how methods, scale, and critique have reshaped digital scholarship. The evolution moves from early computational texts to new networked archives, and finally to reflective critique of technologies themselves. Each phase built on previous one, but introduced different aims and concerns. So the first is humanities computing. In the 20th century, in the mid-20th century, scholars began applying computing techniques to language, tokenization, concordance, and basic textual indexing. Robert Busa is often cited because he coordinated some of the first large-scale efforts to encode and concord text corpora. The focus was practical and method-driven. How can machines help us find words, collocation, and pattern that would make humans far longer to spot? This laid the groundwork for more ambitious digital projects by proving computational methods could add scholarly values. The second one is the digital turn. With the rise of the internet and digitization projects, the field broadened and rebranded as digital humanities. Suddenly, there were large-scale archives, searchable collections, and new modes of publication and collaboration. This phase emphasized accessibility and scale, building repositories, creating tools for browsing massive corpora and reversal networked resources. It also expanded audience. Work moved beyond specialists to include public-facing digital exhibits and pedagogical platforms. And the third one is critical DH, that is critical digital humanities. The most recent wave shifts attention from just building tools and archives to integrating them. Critical digital humanities scrutinizes who designs tools, what assumptions are embedded in algorithm, and how power, race, and gender shape both data and interpretation. Whose voices are represented in digitized collections? What biases do algorithmic processes introduce or amplify? The black box of algorithms becomes a subject of a study rather than an unquestioned utility. This phase is important because it forces us to combine technical literacy with ethical and interpretative framework, ensuring that digital methods are deployed responsibly and transparently. Together, these waves show a progression from technical possibility to scale and accessibility to reflective critique. Understanding this trajectory helps us appreciate why current projects increasingly mix computational methods with questions about equity and accountability. This slide contrasts close reading, that is, close reading means the careful, small-scale analysis of an individual text, with distant reading, which uses computational techniques to find large-scale patterns across thousands of texts. Close reading typically focuses on a text or a handful of passages, while distant reading, by contrast, is designed to handle thousands of texts all at once. Novels, newspapers, archival records aggregated into data sets. That enables us to ask questions about literary history or cultural change that would be impossible to answer by reading alone. Close reading homes in nuances, irony, voice, and stylistic choices. It privileges the meaning at the sentence and paragraph level, while distant reading highlights trends, patterns, and cycles. For example, genre shift, word frequency trajectories, or the rise and fall of certain themes over decades. Therefore, the method that is used by close reading is it relies on interpretation, annotation, and contextual knowledge. It is qualitative or subjective by richly descriptive. But distant reading is computational and statistical. It talks of topic models, network analysis, n-gram, trends, and visualization tools transform texts into data or to reveal macro structures. So therefore, close reading aims at micro-analytic claims about authorial intent, theoretical effect, or textual complexity, while distant reading aims for system-level insights, how literary markets evolve, how themes spread across geographies, how stylistic conventions can change over time. So, it's, neither approach is better, or you can say that they have different functions to perform. They address different questions. Close reading gives depth and interpretive nuances, but distant reading gives breadth and comparative power. Together, they expand the kind of questions humanists can ask and answer. There are three stances in the field: the hack position, the yak position, and the critical marking. There are three stances in the field: the hack position, the yak position, and the critical making, which deliberately combines the two. Each has strengths and blind spots, and the most generative work often happens at the intersection. The hack position emphasizes creation, writing code, assembling digital archives, developing software and pipelines. This approach accelerates discoveries and enables new kinds of questions. For example, large-scale text analysis, visualization, driven insights. But without critical reflection, technical choices can embed assumptions and reproduce blasts. The yak position focuses on theoretical critique, who benefits from a tool, what assumptions are coded into algorithms, what histories or voices might be erased by a given project. It keeps the field accountable, questioning methodology, ethics, broader social impact. The drawback is that endless critique without prototyping can limit practical progress and make interventions speculative rather than demonstrable. So, critical making bridges doing and thinking. It builds prototypes to test theories and use theory to inform what gets built. It is an iterative, reflexive mode: prototype, critique, and revise. This synthesis produces richer scholarship because artifacts become instruments for inquiry and critique becomes grounded in concrete practice. So, we can think of this slide which talks of which breaks down the main roles that make a successful DH project possible. Effective digital humanities work depends on close collaboration among subject experts, technologists, information professionals, and public. Each group shapes the research questions, the technical solutions, and the preservation practices, the way communities engage with results. And this can talk of the subject expert, which refers to the historians, linguists, philosophers, and other domain specialists. It can also refer to technologists who develop and the data scientists. It can also refer to the third section, that is information professionals. For example, librarians and the archivists. They are the custodians of long-term access. So the fourth one is the public stakeholders that engages citizen scholars through crowdsourcing or transcription projects. Meaningful engagement requires clear tasks, good training materials, and feedback loops, so contributors feel valued and results remain reliable. When these roles communicate and respect each other's priorities, projects are more robust and reproducible and impactful. The other slide talks of responsibility, where when we move humanities work into digital format, we are not just converting text into pixels, we are reshaping how knowledge is preserved, who gets it heard, and how future researchers will interpret cultural records. This slide therefore highlights 4 core ethical issues in digital humanities. They are digital archiving, beyond technical tasks of scanning and encoding. Digitization is curatorial. The second is digital divide. Access is not neutral. Researchers, students, and communities without reliable internet, modern device, or training are frequently excluded from producing and using digital scholarship. The third is algorithmic bias. That is also a very important aspect over here. I've talked about these biases somewhere else. Digital projects are fragile. So if you think of sustainability, digital projects are fragile. Link rot, obsolete file formats, and abandoned platforms can erase years of work. So together, these 4 issues show that ethical digital humanities work requires social as well as technical thinking. This slide frames the shift as both an intellectual and technical reorientation. Digital humanities is not just a new set of tools. It is a redefinition of scale and evidence, growing out of mid-20th century linguistics into multidisciplinary big tent that expects scholars to combine critical interpretation with technical construction. So there are some shifts in this. We can think of the shift in evidence and scale evolving from 1940s, where early computational approaches were rooted in linguistic and corpus method, and the last is the big multidisciplinary big tent. Digital humanities now brings together the computer scientists, librarians, historians, literary scholars, and designers and community partners. That diversity enriches methods, but also requires explicit negotiation of values, ethics, and labor. So these are very important aspects. You can think of scholars as critical thinkers and technical builders also. You can include over here in this slide. There is another very important slide, that is digital landscape audit. This talks of this audit evaluates the digital humanities projects across its platform, content, and user experiences to identify strengths, gaps, and opportunities for improvement. The goal is to turn observations into practical next step that supports a sustainable, discoverable, accessible project. So this talks of platform and infrastructure, content and metadata quality, accessibility and usability, preservation and sustainability. It can also talk of community engagement and dissemination. And it can also talk of community engagement and dissemination. So these are this is a very important aspect, the idea of digital landscape auditing. So it's like this. We can uh, uh, we can have a quick recap where these three prompts in this lecture I talked of generally of digital humanities and what goes on inside it. So this was an introduction to uh, the talk on introduction to digital humanities. Thank you very much. Big thanks to you.